Hello, everybody. Thanks for joining me. It's Troy Hudkins here with Lessons for Life podcast. And today our guest is Tanya White. Tanya, thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
It's awesome. Um, so, to start with, just tell us a little bit about yourself.
Uh, I am a wife and a mother of six, and I have a special needs son. He's 8.5. He'll be 9, I guess, in May. And I also have six babies in heaven. So that's been a big part of our family and a big part of our life. And um, I right now I stay at home with the three kids that are not in school and learning. I feel like, especially throughout the pandemic, I feel like I've been learning a lot about myself, my limitations and goals, and things that I've never really, I guess, taken the time to think about before, just because I was busy doing mom stuff and
Right.
regular life stuff. So
Yeah, as we get busy, we tend to just brush things off and you don't think
yeah.
about them, right?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And now you've got time to reflect. So now
Yeah.
you're looking at all those things and analyzing.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's that's amazing. So you've got six kids.
Yeah.
My wife and I have six kids.
Oh yeah.
Yep, it's pretty
It's
awesome.
yeah, it's funny because I always knew I wanted a big family. I come from a family of 5 kids,
Nice.
and my husband comes from a family of 6 kids,
There you go.
and it's kind of funny because I had always wanted a big family, but when we started having kids, I think he was more in the mindset of, yeah, let's have three, like two or three. And
Right.
then when we had two and then we had three, I think he realized, hey, like it's not that different, maybe going from 3 to 4, and we ended up with six, and it's perfect for us. Like it's exactly how many kids we need to have at this time, and we're
That's
pretty happy. It's a crazy house for
Yep.
sure,
Oh,
but
it's busy.
oh
It's
yeah, but
busy.
it's yeah, and I'm trying to savor those moments that people talk about. Oh, you'll miss doing this when they're this age, and you'll miss doing this with them, and and I have to kind of bring myself back to that, and remember that this time is going to go by pretty fast, and there are moments that no, I'm not going to miss, like having to wipe my kids' bums all the time. I'm not going to
Right.
miss that,
Right.
or other things, but I'm definitely trying to savor the good moments, and trying to make more memories with my kids for sure. Because for a long time it was just like my oldest is 10 and my youngest is 2, and it's just been busy, like having a baby or a newborn or being pregnant. Like that was just kind of my life. And then when we had our last, now I'm starting to think, wow, like I don't want to miss anything. I don't want to be focused on this when I'm missing the whole story of the rest of my kids. So
Right. Right.
yeah.
It's interesting because I have grandkids now. So I see them at different times, and it's interesting watching them and thinking back to when our kids were that age and maybe seeing some of the things we did miss,
Hmm.
because now I have either more patience
Yeah.
or more time to spend watching it, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So it makes a difference. But
Hmm.
yeah, when they're young, it's busy, definitely busy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
And
it's like,
as
I mean, it's a good busy, I guess. Like, there are some days where, like you said, like eventually I'll probably have more patience and I can deal with, you know, getting into all the drawers and drawing on the walls, and I can handle that probably a little bit better. But the busyness is actually, it's fun watching their personalities grow, and seeing you know what some of their personality traits are, and how it's like just beginning to bud for like our youngest, like our three youngest. And yeah, it's pretty cool when I get a moment to just sit back and watch and take it in.
That's awesome.
Mhm.
What is one of the things that you really cherish about the kids at the young age?
They're very forgiving. I think children, even my 10-year-old, like, and I've been trying to get into a habit of, like, if I lose my temper or if I get frustrated, to apologize and explain, like, this, I've just been tired or I've had a headache today, so I just don't have as much patience. But the younger ones, they're so forgiving. Like it's like they just turn around and, I love you, mom. I'm always in such awe of that. And I just think, what a good example of how we're supposed to be. Like, we are supposed to be forgiving,
Yeah.
right? And they just are, and they're so loving, and they just, like, they see the best in you. They might not see all of your best moments, but they still see the best in you.
Yep, definitely. I like the fact that when they're young, they're just so true, right? Like the things they say to you, it's flat out, this is what it is. No
Yeah.
sugarcoating, nothing. And
Oh yeah.
they don't mean anything by it. They're just telling you what they know,
Yeah.
right?
Yep. Yep.
And they're so real, right?
Yeah, they're not embarrassed to say things. They just
Yeah,
tell it like it is, right?
yeah,
Whereas now you know, we're afraid that we're going to be judged for what we say,
yeah,
and we just got to be honest. And yeah, for sure. Yeah, I agree.
yeah. But if we could learn to be like the kids are, like you said, so forgiving, right? If we could, as adults, if we could learn to be like that, just what a different world it would be.
Yeah.
Instead of everybody's always nitpicking and stuff and with each other, it's incredible.
Hmm.
It's
Yeah.
awesome. Growing up in your family with siblings, how did you find that with a larger family?
I loved it. I loved having I have two older brothers, an older sister and a twin sister, and I just remember it was just fun. Like, it was fun. You always had someone to play with, or you know, like, family games, always fun because there was enough people. Like,
Yep.
it was just like, it was busy, but it was great. Like, great family outings and camping and just doing things together. I thought it was great. And I think that was one of the reasons why I wanted to have a big family. I wanted
Right,
my kids to have, like, their best friends in their family,
right.
and people that they could count on, and not feel alone. And because that's how I felt growing up.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
What would your opinion be on, say, um, if you grew up in a large family as opposed to growing up as an only child? What do you think the differences would be?
um I think, like, one thing that we're trying to teach our kids is, one, like, open communication, but being honest with each other and learning to share. And I mean, there's always obviously lines where you don't have to share everything that you have, like, something you just got for your birthday, you don't necessarily have to share it right that second. But I think it's a good way to teach them how to share if they're sharing with their siblings. Like, in a house with 8 people, it's, I think there are pros and cons, I guess, to big families. But I think a pro to having a big family is, everybody, like, you just get used to sharing, like. And I think that's a good thing. I don't think sharing is a bad thing. And I've heard before how, like, having your kids out on the playground, and another kid comes up to your kid and wants to play with the toy that they just got, and what does your kid say, or what do you think your kid should say? And I don't know, I think I would rather my kid want to share that toy and give that other child a chance than say, no, like, it's mine and I've got it. And
Right.
I just I think it's more of a giving heart. And I think that's a good attribute to have as you're growing up and as you're an adult. And I mean, again, like, it's not like you have to share everything that you have all of the time, but I think
Right.
if you're more prone to share it, then you recognize that maybe there's a need out there for giving. Do you know what I mean? Like,
Yep. Yeah.
makes sense, but
Or maybe let's play with it together instead of I'm just going to give it to you to go play with.
yeah.
Right?
Yeah, and
Yeah.
that's actually kind of interesting. My son, who is autistic, when he was younger, and even still now, like, he plays on his own. Like, he doesn't always play with other kids. He's getting better at it as he's getting older. But definitely when he was younger, he was a loner. He did his own thing, and I feel like our other kids, especially the like. Our oldest is Hazel, and then Jude is the one who's autistic, and then Charlize is the one that was born after Jude. And I think the two girls there have really learnt empathy for someone who maybe is a bit of a loner and, plays on their own, and because they're more willing to go over and say, hey, do you want to come and play? And like, I think there's a benefit to that. And I mean, everybody needs their alone time. I need my alone time a
Right.
lot. Right. But I mean, I
Especially with
think,
6 kids.
yeah. But I think it's good to have that empathy. And I think that's something that our kids are learning, because we have a big family, because we have a special needs child in our family, that they're learning, everybody deserves their own, like, me time. But at the same time, like, we're here to help each other out. We're here to lift each other up, to,
Right.
learn how to play together. Because
Yeah.
that was something. Now Jude, he's way more comfortable doing that with his siblings than he is with other people, but he's doing it. And that's because the girls worked with him. They made the effort. And I think
Right.
that was so good for him.
Right. I find with young kids too, they don't judge as much. I mean, it's a learned thing.
Yeah.
And us as
Yeah.
adults, we judge other people, whether it's Down syndrome kids or kids with disabilities, physical disabilities, or
Mhm.
adults with disabilities. We judge them.
Yeah.
But kids don't. They'll see kids in the playground and they go play with them, right? Like,
Yeah.
they're just another child. My
Yeah.
my grandkids, my nieces, and there's one of them that's got disabilities. And
Mhm.
my granddaughter, when we go over there, first thing she does is grab toys and puts them right in front of JC. Like, let's play, kind of
Yeah.
thing. And it's
Yeah.
amazing watching that. And as adults, maybe we can learn a little bit.
Oh, I think, like, our kids are our best teachers. Like, and I think that's one thing I'm really grateful for, having a large family, is I have, like, 6 little teachers in front of me all the time, like, teaching me how to be more patient, how to be more charitable, how to be more loving and forgiving. And, like, I love it. Like, it's good for me. I think I try to think of what I would be like if I didn't have a big family and I didn't have those opportunities. If I didn't have a special needs child, how would I be parenting right now? I don't think it would be the way I am.
Right.
Like, it would be totally different. And I'm
Right.
grateful for the way that, my my kids came to me, and the personalities that they are, and how it's helping me. Like, it's almost selfish to say that, I feel, because it's not all about me, and I want them to have great experiences, but I am seeing the blessing that it is in my life, seeing the type of mom they're helping me turn into, and the type of person, just in general, that I am because of them.
Right. Right.
Mhm.
I find, like, I raised my 6 kids, my wife and I coached hockey for years and years, and learning their different personalities and their different attitudes and dealing with each one differently, because you can't get mad at each kid the same, because they're their
Yes.
personalities.
Yep. so hard. Like, and
Yeah.
I remember thinking, like, our oldest, she was like the perfect first child. Like, she just, sleep training like was hard on me, like getting her to sleep on her own, but she was just such a chill girl. Like, and like she's like a second mom. She just is so mothering to all of our kids. And I just, and but then our, Jude was second and so different from Hazel. And then Charlize, our second girl, just looking at her and like their personalities are so different. And so I thought after Hazel, I thought, oh, like this parenting thing, like it's kind of rough, but
Eh,
we're pretty lucky and things
I
are
can do
good.
it.
Oh yeah, things are great. And now I look at all of them and I just think they are all different, and trying to parent them differently is hard. Like
Yep.
and that's something I find that this past year I've been, learning more about and trying to work on to be able to let them be who they are and not suffocate them by treating them how I'm treating their sibling. And that's
Right.
hard,
Yep.
and it takes a lot of work.
Yeah. Yeah. Each each child almost needs different boundaries,
Yes.
and and again different ways of disciplining, that kind of
Yep.
thing.
And how
But
do you
I mean,
explain that to their sibling? Like,
exactly.
oh, like so and so, like for Jude, he'll have some screen time because that's how he self-regulates. But
Yep.
how do you explain that to his siblings who want to go on the computer, and you say, well, you can't go on the computer, but they see Jude on the
Yep.
computer. Like it's,
Yep.
it's such a learning experience for all of us.
Yep.
Right. And
And
I never thought it was going to be that way.
and there's no manual. There's no manual,
Nope.
right? Like,
Nope.
and like you
Nope.
said, the first one came along, okay, this is what's happening, blah, blah, blah. But then the next ones, you're like, well, that doesn't work. I got to
Yeah.
learn all over again.
Yeah. And I just think, did I
Yeah.
really have a child before this one? Because I feel like I know nothing,
Right.
and I am starting at the beginning. So don't ask me
Yeah.
any questions. I can't
Yeah.
answer them for you.
Yeah. My kids, I have one that, when they do something wrong, you almost want to sell them to the Vikings, because that's like, you can't deal with them, right? But
Yeah.
then I have another one that when they do something wrong, all I got to do is look at them like this, and it's the end of the world. They cry, they go to their room, oh, I'm so sorry, Dad, and that's the difference. Like, that's the two extremes.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
that's how they are, just so different.
And
It's
I
amazing.
think something that I've thought about before is how like it's such a learning experience for us as parents to figure out, okay, like this child needs these boundaries and this child needs different boundaries. But I think it's good for the kids too to see that, what, mom and dad make mistakes. Like, you know I try to be open and have that communication line open with my kids, just so they understand, like, I am not a perfect mom. I am going to make mistakes. And if you think that maybe something I've said isn't right, I want you to tell me. I want to have a
Talk to me.
conversation about
Yeah.
it. Yeah. If you
Yeah.
don't think something is fair, let's talk about it. Because I don't want to portray this perfect parent who needs to be up on a pedestal and can do no wrong, because I don't think that's healthy.
Yeah.
So I'm learning that, this whole parenting gig, it's such a learning experience for the family. Like being a kid,
Yeah.
being a parent, like everybody should be learning together.
Yeah.
It's not just parents right all the time, or kids should just get what they want all the time. Like everybody should be learning together.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. Exactly.
And I have to remind myself of that too. So.
Right? Don't we all? Don't we all? But I am right most of the time.
Yeah. Yes, I'm older, so.
Um, have you been teaching your kids at home this last year? Have you been doing
Um,
the
we
homeschooling?
so we did when the shutdown first happened, we did for the remainder of the school year. And then we were trying to decide if that's what we were going to do. And I really wanted to. I wanted to keep our kids home. I saw how in the spring last year, so we have right now, we've got 3 kids in school, and Hazel was in grade 4, Jude grade 2, and Charlize in grade 1. And I just saw how for Hazel, because she's the oldest and like obviously, was going to have more homework, I just thought that it was better for her to be at home where, she was having some issues with kids at school and maybe being bullied a little bit. And she's such a sensitive girl that it was always bothering her. Like she would cry at night sometimes. And I just, like, I wanted to help her and I wanted to build up her confidence. And before COVID even happened, the conversation had come up between Quentin and I, like, should we just maybe homeschool Hazel for like the first half of the year and see how that goes? And, she can go back for the next half, or maybe she'll just stay home for all of grade 5. And I thought like that might be the way to go with her, because I want her to feel confident in herself and to not allow what other people are saying to hurt her feelings so much, because she's so sensitive that way. And also I thought like it would be a good way to, strengthen our relationship. So, if anything did happen at school, she would know without a doubt that she could come to me and talk to me. And so that was, something that we had considered. But then, with Jude, he needed to be at school because he had, someone that was working with him and helping him. And, the last few months last year, when everybody was at home, he was doing the bare minimum. And I just felt like that's not giving him the opportunity that he needs to grow as a kid and academically, however far that's going to go. And so in the end, we ended up sending all 3 kids back. And, there have been moments where I thought, maybe for Hazel, it would still be good for her to be at home. But, they've all grown so much, and they handled going back to school wearing masks all the time way better than I thought they would. Like
Nice.
I couldn't have done it. Like I am so
Yeah.
proud of all the kids who have gone back. They've done so well. But, we had a few days, I think it was at the beginning of January, where the kids had 3 days of homeschool before everybody went back. And even those 3 days, like it was nice because I knew what the homework was, and we were able to make sure that everything was done on time. And so there's still a part of me that wishes that we could have done it, but I'm also seeing for myself as a mom how I don't think I could have handled it. Like I look at friends, like close friends who are doing it still, and I am just in awe of them, how they can handle just, your everyday life, plus having your kids home all the time, plus teaching them and making sure that, they're keeping up with their classmates. And like, I've dealt with anxiety and depression and still dealing with it. And I feel like that would have been too much for me. And I wanted my kids to get the best education they could have this year with however it was going to go. So it
Yeah.
just worked out this way.
It's definitely hard doing the homeschooling thing. We did that for a couple of years when my kids were younger.
Mhm.
And having multiple different grades at home. You're not just teaching one lesson, you're teaching 3 different ones, right?
Yeah.
So it makes it hard. And then
Yeah.
planning and preparing and being, as well as all the other stuff you're doing already,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
I mean, you're taking that on as well as your regular life.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
it's another full-time job almost.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's definitely hard.
Yeah.
How important is education, do you think, for the kids? Or for you, for everybody? How important is education?
I remember when I was like in high school, I don't know, I kind of thought ahead to what I was going to do after I graduated, but it wasn't, I don't know, it was not that it wasn't a big deal, but it wasn't like super high on my priority list. And now like I just think like I want all of my kids, like my sons and my daughters, to all have opportunities to learn whatever it is that they are passionate about. Like, and especially now while they're in school, like we're trying to hone in on like Shirley's loves math. Like she's really good at it. So, try to encourage her so that she never feels like, oh, I'm not good enough, or I'm not good at this subject. And even Jude, like Jude is such a wild card. We just never know I mean, right now I think he's kind of done with school. I think most of us are done with school, but like,
Yep.
still trying to find like, what is it? What is it that they are passionate about right now in grade 5 and grade 3 and grade 2? Because I want them to love education. I want them to love learning. Like now that I'm, kind of done having kids, like I'm 41. I think I'm 41. And
I won't tell
and I'm
anybody.
yeah. And I think now I'm staying at home with my younger 3, but in like 3 years, they're all going to be like, all 6 of them are going to be in school. And so I'm starting to think, what is it that I'm passionate about? What course could I take just so I can continue learning? And I never thought that I would say that to myself. I always thought that I would just be content staying at home and being a mom, and not that that's bad, but I think, man, I just think education is so important. Like my husband, he's got a degree in engineering and he's a journeyman electrician, and he's learning French. And so like even from him, like he's such a good example to me of education and of learning and never stop learning. And so I think I'm kind of catching the bug, I guess.
My wife and I have been doing that lately too. We're both taking little courses here and there,
Yeah.
and expanding. And I keep thinking, my wife always says this about my grandkids. You get a new phone, you get your grandkid to show you how to work it, right? Like get the 5-year-old, they'll show you how to run the remote control,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And my wife says, like, my one son spends a lot of time with one of my grandchildren quite a bit, and has taught her so much about technology. And every time she wants to know something, she tells us, Paha, just ask Google, right? Like, so we don't want to be those grandparents that say, oh, I don't know anything about that, I'm not going to do it. We
Yeah.
want to keep learning and keep up with all this
Yeah.
stuff so that we
Yeah.
can be on top of it, and
Yeah.
keep learning and keep
Yeah.
expanding your mind, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. What do you think carries more importance with education? Would you say classroom or life lessons?
Oh man. I I I think I would lean more towards life lessons. Like I think classroom education is important. I think you need those skills to continue on in society and, you know, get a career, get a good job. But I feel like if you just book smart and you're not street smart, I think you're going to struggle. I think in a lot of ways you're going to struggle. You need to know how to interact with people. I think you need to have those experiences. And it's funny because I thought a lot about how, like, I look at my kids, and especially like the older ones, and the questions that they ask me and the things that, you know, bother them or don't make sense to them. And I think to myself, wow, like I remember thinking the same thing when I was your age. And now that I'm older, oh yeah, I totally get why that's the way it is. And it's okay because I've gone through life and I see through my own experiences, mistakes and whatever. oh, and that's why this is this way. Okay, it makes
Right.
sense. But my kids who don't have a lot of life experience, it's very frustrating for them. They don't know how to deal with it.
Yeah.
So I feel like if you don't have those street smarts, that life experience, you're, I think, emotionally kind of stunted. Like you can't handle a lot of stuff that's going to come your way.
Right. Right. I think definitely we have to experience things. You can't just read about it.
Yeah.
Might be a good basis, but
Yeah.
you have to have experiences to really learn things
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
understand them. Yeah. What is there anybody in your life, do you think, that has been a good influence on you or a great example to you growing up?
Um, I guess someone that's come to my mind, especially lately, has been my grandpa. So my mom's dad. He passed away in 2016. And I just, whenever I think of him, I think, like, the first thing that comes to my mind is just how much he loved his family. Such a family man, such a hard worker, such a good example. Like, there's just so many like little experiences like between he and I. And, I know that he's had like, little experiences with all of his grandchildren and his children and my grandma. And it's just goodness. Like, he was just a good person. And I remember when we went to his funeral, and I just thought, like, the procession of vehicles, family vehicles that were driving down, the street to the church. Like, our family is so big. Like, my mom has 6 brothers and sisters, so there's seven kids in her family, and all of the family, like, there's so many grandkids. I think there's like 40 or something like that. Like, there were so many of us, but the town itself, like, everybody knew my grandpa. Everybody knew him, and everybody knew that he loved God and, like, loved his savior and was such a great example of a Christ-like life. And I think that has trickled down, like, through his kids and to his grandkids, great grandkids, like that life of service and that example. How can it not affect your life? And I feel like, for me, right now, so his parents, they came over from Denmark. And so, and I remember, like, my great grandma, like, her accent, like, listening to her talk, and even my grandpa had a bit of it, hey. And so now I just decided that I was going to learn Danish, and so I'm learning Danish. My husband's learning French, and but whenever I'm taking these classes, I think of my grandpa, and I just think, like, this is my heritage, and this is my grandpa. Like, it's a way to feel connected with him. And I remember, like, when I came off of my mission, he's like, my family, they're not members of the church, but I remember seeing him for the first time after my mission, and I was so happy to see him. Like, it was just that feeling of coming home. Hey, like, he just was so, like, arms open and just so loving and just accepting. Like, it just doesn't matter to him. He loves you, and you don't even have to be family to be family for him. Like, he was just so loving and so charitable to everybody.
That's awesome.
Mhm.
That's amazing. Um, is there any friends or anybody that has ever had an influence on who you've become?
I think, yeah, like, there were a lot. Like, I remember when I think when I first moved to Edmonton, I was, I lived with, I think it was, I don't know, 4 or 5 girls, I think. And I just remember like the youth that we, I should say youth, the young single adults that we, associated with, like just good people. Like I feel like I've been so fortunate to be surrounded by so many good people who have in their own ways like influenced my life. Like when Quentin and I moved to Fort Saskatchewan, we had just had Charlize, so she was I think 4 months old, so we had 3 kids at the time. And since we've been here, so that was 7 years ago now, maybe. um I I think we had lost like five babies or 4. And every time, like there was just always somebody there. Always somebody there. Like I feel like Allison, my friend Allison, she had never at that point, she had never experienced the same things that I had experienced, but she was always there. Always just willing to drop whatever she was doing to be there for me. And like right now, I would say like my friend Krista, she, I think of her often, and I know that she thinks of me often because she tells me, which right now means a lot because we don't get to see people. We don't get to
Right.
go visit each other. And so I feel like I've got like this close knit group of girlfriends that I know I can call, I can text, or, even just go to their house and stand on their doorstep 6 feet apart and just say, hey, like today was kind of a rough day, and just, vent or whatever. And just them listening has been such a blessing for me because I'm a talker. I need to get like my thoughts out and my feelings out. And so COVID has been kind of hard for me because I can't see my friends. I can't get together with them. And so
Yeah. Cool. What do you think is one of your greatest life lessons you learned so far?
I think I would say being honest, just being true to who you are. I feel like for most of my life, I feel like I've tried to be, or I've been a people pleaser. I want others to be happy. I don't want them to feel uncomfortable. I don't want them to, you know, feel bad because of something I have said or something that I've done. And so I, maybe was never completely honest because I didn't want to hurt feelings or something like that. And so I feel like I was never 100% myself because I was, I didn't want to put someone else down because of that. But now, like, I mean, I'm in my 40s. I don't have time to, I guess, really worry about that. Like, I'm not out to hurt people's feelings, obviously, but I am realizing through my own experiences and even my kids, like, telling my kids, be who you are. Like, don't be afraid to stand up for what you believe in. Don't be afraid to, if you don't agree with something, it's okay to say that you don't agree. It doesn't mean that you're not friends with that person anymore. But everybody is, oh, it's okay to have a different opinion. Right. And I think I
Even
just
if it's
never,
wrong.
yeah, yeah.
Right?
I mean, I've never had that happen.
No.
But it's just been interesting, like just really seeing how it's okay to not agree, but we can still be friends. We can still talk about things. And I'm not afraid to be who I am anymore. Like I'm not afraid for my kids to stand up and be who they are. Like whoever they want to be, whoever they are inside, I'm okay with that. And I want them to feel comfortable with that because I want to have a good relationship with them. I want them to feel comfortable coming to mom, even though we might not, maybe we don't agree on things, but that's okay.
Yeah.
You have to be honest. Like you can't, like you have to be kind and you have to be loving, but you have to be honest too. And I think that's
Yeah.
just something that I thought I understood and I had a grasp on, but I didn't. And
Yeah.
now I do. So I feel like that has really kind of opened my eyes.
Yeah. I think the friends that you can have, that you can actually have a heated discussion with and have differing opinions, and when you're finished talking about it, you can still be friends and play games or watch TV together
Yeah.
and not be mad at each other.
Yeah.
Those are the best friends to have, because those are the
Yeah.
ones who accept you for who you are, and they've always
Yeah.
got your back, right? Like,
Yeah. Yeah. Agreed.
you don't have to have the same opinion, and you can be different, but
Yeah.
they're always there for you,
Well, that's
right?
that's the world. Like that's society. We're all different people. You know, if we're only going to stick with, people who believe or think the same way that we do, I think that's just kind of a sheltered life. Like
You're
you
going to have
need
a
to
pretty
experience.
small circle,
Yeah,
right?
I think so. Like I think you're missing out on like the richness of humanity and just people if you aren't willing to even listen to those differences.
Yeah. Well, and that's one of the things, that's one of the reasons I created this podcast, is because, I ask you a question and I've asked 15 other people the same question, but you all have different ideas or different experiences.
Mhm.
And I'm hoping that some people will say, "Oh, I never thought of that. Oh, that is a good way to do it," or whatever, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Because we're all different, every one of
yeah,
us. My wife sits in the other room and listens to my interviews sometimes, and she says it's interesting hearing the different answers people give to the exact same question,
yeah.
because it is so different.
Well, we're
And
here to learn from each other, right? Like,
and and hopefully we do,
yeah,
right?
yep, yep, exactly. Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, is there anything you think in your past that you would go back and change?
Oh boy, yes. I feel like I've thought back to, the type of person I was when I was in high school. And like I was friendly with everybody. Like I was friends with everyone but I wish I was more sure of who I was and confident in myself. And I think, maybe I needed to put more of an effort into to being that type of person. Like I feel like I just was
Just
floating
making it
along.
through.
Yeah, like and but just not maybe not worrying about like the future or where I was going. And I wish I had, I guess, had more of a like a focal point that I, had a goal and that I did whatever I needed to do to achieve that goal. And I think there are times when, you don't need to stress or worry about the future all the time, but I think you need to plan and I think you need to have some sort of a plan. And I don't think I did. Like I just, I feel like I was learning about myself, but just like at such a slow pace that I was like, I don't know, not where I could have been, I guess.
And now you're
And I,
starting to learn most of it,
yeah, exactly.
right?
Yeah. Well, it's not that
After
I,
40 years.
well, and and I was happy. I was a happy person, but I feel like, maybe I could have accomplished more in my life, in my 40 years, had I, maybe planned better when I was younger, had, like I said, had more of a goal in mind instead of just thinking, okay, like what is the job I'm going to have this summer? Like just
Right.
trying to make more long-term goals, I guess.
I think lots of us are like that. I know I was as well, same as you, just kind of made it through high school and just carried on, and
Yep.
never really any big plans or anything. But I think if all of us thought back to that and applied ourselves more, maybe we could have been better, stronger, faster, smarter,
Yeah.
whatever,
Yeah.
based on what we were pushing for.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the big things back then is maybe we weren't pushed to think that way, right? Maybe
Yeah.
society has changed now and people are more apt to give their kids some desires or push them towards, greater goals,
Yeah.
so to speak.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, I think of my kids right now and I just think, like I said before, I want them to see what they're like recognize what they're passionate about so that they can plan to do that, hopefully as some sort of a job or career. Especially my girls, like I don't want them to, like I thought that I might be a teacher, or like I was never really sure, but I knew I wanted to be a mom, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that, but I think there has to be a backup. I think there has to be like a plan B and a plan C, like
Yeah.
just because that's life. Like you can plan for this, but that's, not necessarily what's going to happen. And I want my girls especially to know, like, eventually maybe you will become a wife and a mother, and that's awesome. And you will be the kind that stays home and does homeschooling or not, but you're going to want to have something in your back pocket for after that time. Like for me right now, like I said, I've got like 3 years left of kids staying at home, and then they're all going to be at school. And, I might have a little bit of time that I'm just going to relax and enjoy the quiet, but then I'm going to be bored and I'm going to want to
have
do something.
have tea and crumpets and bonbons with all the ladies on the street.
Exactly. Right.
Yeah, there's definitely something to, having a plan, backup plan.
Yeah.
One of my boys he's kind of a stay-at-home dad. I mean, he's got a job.
Mm-hmm.
He's a firefighter, so he's got a lot of time off. So he spends a lot of time at home with the kids.
Mm-hmm.
His wife works full time. She's a nurse. They work 12-hour shifts. Like she gets off work, has the babies, he raises the babies, and she goes back to work. Like that's
Yeah.
kind of how it's been, right?
Yeah.
And there's nothing wrong with that either,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But yeah, teaching the kids that, having their goals and their minds made up for something is definitely a good thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
If you could write a letter back to yourself at a younger age, what age would it be and what kind of advice would you give?
Well, I was trying to think, what age was I a good listener? Hmm. Maybe like I would say,
39?
yeah, I know, right?
Yeah.
I think of like Hazel. So Hazel's 10 and a half. And I think I was like, she and I are a lot alike. And so I would say like, yeah, around 10 years old, I would probably write a letter and just kind of going back to what I said before, like, don't be afraid of who you are. Don't be afraid of, following your heart and just recognizing the good that's in you. Because I think I didn't have like a lot of self-confidence, like a lot of self-confidence at all back then. And just learning to love who I was, like love who you are, be okay with who you are. And if you're not, like, what do you need to change? What what is it that you need to be focusing on then, to get to that point where, you just love yourself and it doesn't matter. Like I've got friends right now who I know just like they could look in the mirror and just like, I love you. And I'm not like, even now, like I'm 41 and I don't know that I could say that. Like, I don't know that I'm there yet because it's just never been high on my priority list, I guess, until now, and so, yeah, I would definitely tell her, like, love who you are. And if you don't, what do you need to change? Because it's important, like, especially once you get out on your own, you have to have that confidence to make it at
Yeah.
whatever you're
Yeah.
doing, right? Whether it's being a mom or having a career as a nurse or whatever it is, right? Whether you're single
Yep.
or you're married, like you need to have that.
You have to have that strength and confidence for sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. I have to stop for a second and ask you about something. So on your desk behind you, there's a box. Is that like a school project?
Oh, this, yeah,
Yeah,
my son, dude, it's his groundhog house.
that is awesome.
Yeah.
I've
And
been
this,
looking at that the whole time we've been talking. I keep wanting to ask you about it.
well, it's funny because, and like, so this was from Groundhog's Day, so like a month ago. And I've been trying to downsize in my house, but I find when it, like with all my kids, I do find it hard to throw their stuff out because I just think, wow, like this is what you're doing and you're 7 or you're 10 or whatever. But with Jude, like he was nonverbal until he was 4, I think 4 years old. And I feel like he has come so far that anything that he does, I have such a hard time getting rid of it. Like I never thought that he would be interested in making a groundhog house. Like the class did it, but I didn't think that he would care because he only
Right.
cares about Mario and Luigi and Mickey Mouse. And they're not it. Well, no, I should say Mickey Mouse is. He's on a picture in the house. So, but it's like recognizing those big and little steps, especially for him. It's like, how do I let that go? How do I throw this old shoebox with plasticine out? Like, it's not really doing any good here, but it's hard to get rid of it because it's something that I didn't think that he would ever accomplish. I
Yeah.
really didn't, but he's like leaps and bounds some days where like he's doing some multiplication. Had no idea that would ever be on his radar to do. Like he doesn't like
There you
math, he
go.
said, but he'll do it, So
Yeah.
yeah,
That's a
it's just,
bonus.
yeah.
Yeah.
So we've got
My
the ground.
just so you know, my oldest is 38 and my wife has bins full of binders and she can flip through everything from preschool and kindergarten all the way up to grade 12.
Yeah.
And she's got all their stuff in binders. So
Yeah.
so that little box might be in your house for a long, long time.
Probably. And
That's
I'm trying to,
cool.
Work through all that stuff, but it's like, how do you let go of some of that? Because it's such a milestone in some areas for any kid, right? And you just think, oh, like this, I can't throw this one picture of the sun away that they finally drew with like,
The one up in the corner of the paper with 3
yeah,
little rays off it.
yes.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Maybe by child number 5, I won't care. I'll just
Yeah.
be like, that's good.
Oh, just like your older siblings. Yeah. Okay, thanks.
Yeah. I've got one just like it. I've got 4 just like it. So I don't need another one.
Yeah. Do you if you could have lunch or a chat with anybody at all, dead or alive, who would you pick?
I I think I would pick my grandpa.
Nice.
I think I'd pick him. I feel like now that I'm older, and like his health wasn't that good, for the last little bit of his life, and I never got around to visiting him as much. But like if I could have lunch with him now and just ask him questions and just hear his stories, and it would be the best. It would be the best.
Nice. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So picture yourself sitting in a field somewhere, and there's a door in front of you. Describe what your door would look like.
Like texture and color and everything.
Whatever you feel.
Okay, so if I was in a field, I feel like it would be like a cream door, like kind of ornate, like just like a fancy doorknob and gold on it, like just a beautiful door. That's what I see.
Would it open in or out?
It would open into somewhere.
So you'd push through it.
Yeah.
So describe what would be on the other side if you step through your door.
I feel like it would be like a sitting room with like cute little like sofas and love seats, like kind of fancy with like gold trim, and
Nice.
yeah, just like a nice, like quiet, peaceful place. Clean. I think clean is like
Number
top of
one,
that list. That's what I would. Yeah.
non-COVID.
No dust, no nothing. Yeah.
Your own quiet place,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
Meditation room.
Yeah.
Have you ever done meditation or yoga or any sort of like help self-healing type of stuff?
I mean, definitely prayer, I guess, is kind of like a form of meditation. That's something I've actually thought about a lot lately, thinking that maybe like I don't know, I felt a lot of stress, and maybe it's like that COVID stress that a lot of people are dealing with, but trying to figure out how can I center myself? Like I look at Jude and I just think, wow, like he knows what his body needs. He knows how to regulate and knows what he needs to do. I don't know that.
Mhm.
And so just trying to figure out like what it is. And I would love to try like just some sort of meditation where I'm like by myself and it's quiet, and I can close my eyes and just, go through my thoughts and just work through whatever it is I need to work through, or just try to find like that quiet place and that peaceful place. Cause I felt that through prayer, but I almost feel like, what can I add on top of that? What else can I do? Cause, right now COVID's not going away and life is just hectic, crazy all the time. And,
Right.
and I think we could use whatever tools we can get,
Right.
to find that peace.
Well, it
I've
doesn't
tried
hurt.
yoga a little bit. That's not very peaceful. Not for me.
It's yoga's lots of exercise.
It
It's
is.
it's
It is.
very stressful workout.
I'm not there yet. Like
Lots of those
maybe
poses, I don't move that way.
no, me neither.
But the meditation thing, my wife and I both do meditation all the time. But it
Yeah.
doesn't hurt to take 10 minutes and just close your eyes and reflect, right? And
Yeah.
get yourself in that quiet place and ground yourself and, center your
Yeah.
thoughts and
Yeah.
see where you're at in your life, so to speak.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. It definitely helps me out. I know that. It's amazing.
Yeah. I think that's something that I need to work into my schedule.
Yeah. There's lots to be said for it. And there's lots of other things out there. When I was in computer school years ago, one of the guys in the class, and we were all like, we weren't just out of high school, we were all older at this point. And the one guy was like, he was almost 40 at that time, and that was 30 years ago. But he would do Tai Chi during our lunch breaks. And watching him do that was amazing because it was, well, Tai Chi is kind of a form of meditation, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's all slow, synchronized movements that are very precise and everything. It's pretty amazing watching it.
Hmm.
And he would be so focused, you could walk right in front of him and he wouldn't have a clue you were there.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But that's awesome. Um, what kind of music do you listen to? What's your go-to for like happy music or
I like my 80s music. I like Julie and the Phantoms. But I do like classical music. I do like to turn that on. Like it just, I'll go upstairs. We just, our bonus room, it's been a playroom forever. And, just at the end of last year, we kind of converted it into a library. And we've got like a kind of a glider chair up there. And I love just going up there and just like listening to whatever classical music I feel like at the time. And it's just like that's close
there's
to my
your
happy.
there's your meditation,
Yeah.
your alone time? Yeah.
Yeah.
Classical is very relaxing music. As much
Yeah.
as a lot of people don't like classical, it
Hmm.
is very soothing. And
Yeah.
if you're listening to it, you definitely relax.
Yeah.
That's cool. If
Yeah.
you were stuck on a desert island and the device you had would never die, but could only play one song over and over and never stop, what would your song be?
Okay. I am going to pick two because I can't decide. Um, the first one would be Claire de Lune by Debussy because it's just beautiful. It's just a beautiful piece and very like that's one I could just sit and listen to that one forever. Like it's just so relaxing, beautiful piece. The second one though is When You Say You Love Me by Josh Groban. That's Quentin's and my wedding song. And that like I love that one too. If I felt like singing along, that would be the one. If I didn't and I just wanted to listen, it would be Claire de Lune for sure.
Nice. That's awesome. If you So let's pretend you've made it all the way through your life. You've lived as long as you've wanted to. You've learned everything you could possibly learn in this life. And when you pass on to the other side, you have to take everything with you so nobody has any clue who Tanya White is. But you can leave behind 3 life lessons. What would your lessons for life be?
Love yourself. Be true to who you are. And be the best example of you that you can be.
It's awesome.
Yeah,
It's
that's
awesome. That's excellent. Thank you very much for your time tonight, Tanya. It's
oh, thank you.
awesome chatting with you, and
This
and
has been
visiting, and
fun
maybe we could do it again in a
for
year or
sure.
something,
I've got a lot of time.
right?
I know, not
Yeah,
busy.
yeah, that'd be great. So
Yeah.
again, thank you very much. I'm Troy Hudkins from Lessons for Life, and my guest, Tanya White. Thank you again for joining us. And tune in again next time for another episode. Thank you.